Direction for Our Times features the Interior Life podcast, which is a backpack production sponsored by Aging with Dignity and Icona Resorts.
Hello, my name is Kathryn Clark, and we're talking about spirituality. Now, today I was thinking about the thing called faith. And faith is a very funny thing, and some people become discouraged or they wouldn't even consider embarking on a spiritual journey because they would say, I have no faith. Or I tried that and it didn't work out for me. I don't believe. I didn't have anything happen to me that convicted me that I should have faith. Now, the good news about faith is it's a gift and you can ask for it, but you have to keep asking for it. You know, they say, knock and it shall be open, and persevere and it will come to you. So faith is like that. Now, faith comes from deeply within the place of your soul that's connected to eternity. Yes, it can come from there, and it's in there. You have as much as anyone else. You have access to as much God as anybody else has. This is just the way this is. And you have to engage with it. And as you engage with the divine, the invisible reality all around you, it grows in you. Your conviction grows, your strength grows, and it really begins to inform how you experience the world, how you experience any knockbacks or insults, any of those things. It really reduces fear and anxiety, and it doesn't give you a who cares kind of thing. It gives you something far better than that. It gives you the sense that somebody cares, and that person is always with me now. So with regard to faith, as that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, he was told, you have to fake it till you make it, because he was at a point in his life with addiction where he said, oh, these people are praising God all over the place. I don't have that. I don't have that asset that they seem to so readily hold on to. So someone said, well, sure, we all have it. Just fake it till you make it, pretend. And then he said, what I would have observed, Providence caught up with him. Once they had his attention, they were able to show off from the next world, like show up for him in ways that he couldn't deny. Just the chances of these things happening were just too absurd for him to ignore. He had to acknowledge that something bigger than him and far more powerful and far more loving was actually at work in his life. Now, they say, Christ said, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. A mustard seed, if you're a gardener, is teeny tiny, like it gets lost in the folds of your hands, and you're trying to go like this to dig it out so you can put it where it needs to be. A mustard seed is pretty darn small. So what that is telling us, that the faith that Christ is describing there is really, what would you call it? A distillation. It's the purest expression, unadulterated, unimpacted. Faith such as that. I was thinking about you and I and our journey, and I was thinking about the apostles and their journey. They were regular folk from all different professions, probably some, butting up against each other. Well, we know there was. It's illustrated for us in Scripture that they didn't always get along. They weren't always impressed with each other. There came suspicion among them, jockeying for position. James and John even said the brothers wanted to be on the left and right of Christ. They wanted to sit next to him, or was it their mother who wanted to sit them right up with Christ in the next world? And Christ was like, oh, lady, no, man, you're not thinking of this correctly. This isn't what we're at here. We're not jockeying for position in the next life. And your sons, lovely as they are, can't compete with the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. So there's that human mind, understandably trying to grab hold of it and pull it down to where they can understand it. But that's not what you're supposed to do with spirituality. We're supposed to look up, try to elevate ourselves and try to get our minds at the level of Christ. If you're into law of attraction, things like that, then you know that your thinking has to come up. You can't be thinking down at a low level in fight or flight, let's say, from your limbic system and still achieve the goals that you'd like to achieve. Well, in a way, this is something similar. You're thinking the journey we're taking is up a mountain. And as we climb, our thinking climbs. And we began to take on the mind of Christ, which is a scriptural reference too. If you'll note, so much of what I'm saying as a Catholic comes from scripture. If you want to start the journey somewhere, I would start at the New Testament. And don't worry if you don't understand everything. You're not meant to. Just flip through and something will jump out at you and get you. Now, okay, the faith. Fake it till you make it. Faith. Believe. Those men went on a journey, the apostles. They loved Christ. They were interested in him. They were curious about him. He was so different. And here this man is claiming that a new kingdom is coming. And surely that held their interest because they were oppressed. We are all oppressed by virtue of the fact that we're living as human beings here. We're not totally free until the next world. But you and I feel oppression, I'm sure, in different ways. And if we compared notes, we would probably be able to produce a time in our life where we felt more oppressed even than today. Or, you know, that's the human experience. Spirituality helps us transcend that human experience. And once you're free in your mind, you can never be oppressed again. You can never be oppressed again once you are free in your mind. And I think that's what they understood so powerfully after the Lord died on Good Friday and rose again on Easter Sunday. They thought, no human being has any power over us. You know, they can hurt our body. They can put us in jail. They can whip us. They can insult us. They can tell lies about us, distort us, pretend they don't understand our teaching. But they can't touch what we have. And that is faith, because faith always finds a way. The flower that grows up through the sidewalk. That's an example of heaven really at work saying a sidewalk is no match for the power that's contained in the tiny seed. And that is your faith. It's there. Believe me, it's there. Now, I'll tell you a couple stories because I'm interested in this today. First story. So there's two children going off to an exclusive camp in the summer, and they're running with wealthy other children, wealthy children. Not that they were wealthy, but these kids had thought of themselves. They were the top intellectually, top performers, and they got to go to this Princeton camp. And so their parents said, they're a little full of themselves, and this is not what we're after. At the same time, this is going to be a good experience for them, that they're going to be competing with people at their level. They won't be the smartest people in the room, which is really important for all of us, isn't it? And important for us to know that if we know the most in the room about one subject, surely someone else in the room knows more about a different subject. And that's humility. That's knowing your place and understanding that while you have strengths, you have deficits. I think a lot of people today have an inflated sense of um, self-esteem that's actually masking a low self-esteem. So I think that where the work needs to be done really is on the low self-esteem and knowing how amazing you are in a way that doesn't make you inflate artificially. Maybe that's another subject for another time. However, so the parents gave them little books to go on their 3-week camp and said, okay, every day, if you fill in something that you're grateful for in the day, we'll take the books. And if we're satisfied that you engaged with the exercise, you'll get $100. Now, that was a lot of money. And that was how seriously the parents wanted them to have something else to do at this camp, but then exercise their intellect and think about how amazing they were. You know what I mean? Like this superior. Um, so camp starts and they start. Now, somewhere during this camp, one of the parents became critically ill and was taken into the hospital and to intensive care, and everything changed for the family in a few countries. But those two were kept in the camp because it was deemed no brainer not to interrupt them or to keep their things stable. Okay. Time goes by, everybody recovers. This is good. Months later, finally, those journals came up with the demand for the money. And as the parents checked the journals, what they saw is the first week were frivolous entries. Oh, what are you grateful for? Oh, blonde haired vampires, watermelon bubble gum, um, teachers that leave early, and this sort of thing. Frivolous, but done. The job was done, but it was a lot of frivolity, a lot of superficial. And then you could almost see on the page where the tragedy struck the family that suddenly they were grateful for parents, family, um, getting to go home, uh, aunts and uncles, hospitals, doctors, medicine, people who care if you're okay. I mean, like the whole thing changed in an instant. Life wasn't, in a way, it was feet landing hard on the ground, and in a good way, oh, and then prayer and things like that. So what did they have? This was a praying Christian family. So when this happened, they had somewhere to go with their fear, and they had agency in it, saying, well, we can pray, we can ask God to protect the rest of our family members. Lots of good things happened for them in the experience. Now, okay, then I go jump from that story to another one. So I don't want to be a downer, but I'm not a downer. So anyway, when the September 11th happened, we had an interesting catchment of experiences of people who were facing death together. Um, People who fight wars together or experience combat situations together, policemen, first responders. Well, they develop an intense bond. And over and above the fact that ongoing exposure to trauma has impacts, they tend to know what's important in life. And when people on an airplane accepted that they were probably going to die, it was really intriguing to see what they did. They called their loved ones. It's all they cared about were their connections, their family, the people they loved and who loved them. And I couldn't help but note that they have been forgiven on a plane about to crash. They would have been forgiven for calling their spouse and saying, I'm about to crash. This is a nightmare. I'm scared to death. What's going to happen? No, that's not what anyone did. Hi, Hi, Mary, it's me. Look, there's a problem on the plane. It's been hijacked. If it doesn't go well, I want you to have a great life. I'm so grateful to you. And thank you for everything you've given me. And you're going to do great. It's going to be okay. Or a parent calling a daughter or a son. Hi, sweetie. Well, this isn't going the way we wanted. I think we might end poorly here. I'm so proud of you. I've always been so proud of you. Blah, blah, blah. You're a great child. Thank you for. I mean, in those moments, it was like a crash course in what's important in life. Now, clearly, there's so much to say about both of those stories. But the most obvious thing is your life can change in an instant. And when it does, all the fluff, the fog goes. And you're looking at what's really important to you, yes, but there's something more. Oh, you're looking at the true gifts of God in your time here. And those are the connections of love. Those are the connections of love. And I mean, people say, on their deathbed, they don't regret not working more, largely. They regret working too much. Some of the European countries really don't have that same American work, not a commitment. They have a commitment, but it's not an obsession. They're more balanced in their leisure time. So they knew what was important, and that was their people. They called and said, it's going to be okay. They called to give something. They called to thinking, this is probably the last time this person is going to hear my voice. What do I want to say to them? I mean, and it was, the tenor and tone was all just about like that. And reassuring, loving, kindness. I love the awareness. It's not about me. It's about the person who has to go on. That's what they were thinking about. Like, I'll deal with my stuff. This person is going to be going on without me now, and how's that going to impact them? So beautiful. And for the children, the experience was all of those things we thought were givens, and which enabled us to be so casual about our experience, could be taken away. And then what do we have? Powerful. If you pray, you're getting this, something like this, a few times a day. Even if you stop and pray for a minute and a half, you're connecting with the invisible reality. You're drawing to yourself the sense that there's something more, and it impacts you. And then when you go into the rest of your day, after stopping for prayer, you're grounded, centered, all those things, but like there's something more to it. You're kind of like, I care about all this, but I'm detached too, because it's not everything. Absolutely everything is not in front of me. And people's response to me, is it important? I need to look at myself and to do my personal work. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to impact anyone negatively. But you and I both know not everyone's going to like you no matter what you do. So you can detach from that. You can say, well, as long as I've done nothing wrong, I'm walking away free of someone's feelings about me, be they negative or even positive. Because I've seen people where somebody is clearly, they would call it in Ireland, plumossing them. I don't know if that's an American used word or not, but it means like, there's great vulgar terms for it, but it's kind of like, flattering them, saying things like you're, patting them and you're, doing these things to make them think they're wonderful. And you don't want to be one of those people who actually believes it, who you are is not contingent, positively or negatively, on what anyone else thinks of you. Take it all with a grain of salt. I feel like what God thinks of me, I know. And what I think of God is represented by what I do in a day, by how I react, respond, reply to the circumstances in my day. And the further you get on the journey, the more walking you have to do. I mean, it's not like you're ever going to finish or need to. mentally. Yeah, we want to grab flags as we go. I'd like to be a little more detached, a little more um, trusting, a little more, obviously, more merciful in my thoughts and my words. So, heading back, circling back, as they say, to my point about what's really important to you, I suppose is what I'm saying. Uh, Whatever it is, take some spirituality and add it to it. Add it to it. We always do an exercise. We do an exercise in our camps and in our retreats and things like that because it really does help people discover what is important to them and really what they need to do. So you're sitting in a chair. Let's just do it for fun. You're sitting in a chair and you're thinking, oh, it's morning time. You've just gotten up and you're going to go to work. Okay. And then let's just say your guardian angel comes to you and says, you don't have to go to work today. You're finishing. Your life is over. You've done it. It's finishing. I'm taking you now to heaven. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, what are you thinking? So I'm sitting in a chair. I've got all this stuff to do today. No, you're not. You don't have to do anything. I'm thinking for 1 second, I pause this. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, I have to do this. No, it's finished. You don't have to do anything. You're finishing. This is your day of your death, and you're being born into eternal life. My friends, if the thought of death makes you anxious, don't think about closing your eyes in this world. Think about opening your eyes in the next world, and it's going to be someone who loves you, and they're going to be smiling at you, and they're going to just have their arms out to receive you. Never think about death as someone said, I just can't handle the idea of my last breath. I'm like, think about your first breath in the next world, like a little baby. And you're breathing in the heavenly kingdom. It's magnificent. I believe this with certainty. I have no doubts about the next world. And I know that makes me lucky. I know I'm blessed. I'd love to transfer that to you. So sitting in the chair now, as I'm sitting in the chair and I'm going to heaven on this day, 2 questions to ask yourself. Number 1, what did I not finish? What do I wish I had finished? I'm dead. I'm going. My life is ending. What is it I wish I had completed? Okay, so whatever that is for you, I suggest you prioritize it, right? I remember doing this exercise and boom, something came to me right away and I thought, okay, that's going top to the list. I have to push that up higher on the list. Then the other thing is you're thinking, okay, I'm about to leave. I'm going. These people around me, I don't have another chance to say anything to them. I can't comfort them. I can't advise them. I can't do another thing. My options, let's say my opportunities are completed. My question to you is this. It's simple. Does everyone you love know that you love them? Does everyone you're grateful for know that you're grateful for them? Have you thanked the people in your family? Have you thanked your siblings? Or do you treat them so casually that they would be surprised if you said, I'm glad you're my sister. I'm glad you're my brother. And by the way, thanks for that time I was having an awful time and you came and moved me. Whatever it is. Thank you for fixing my plumbing. Thank you for lending me money that time. Thank you for sitting next to me when one of our parents died. Thank you for always being there when I needed you. We can not take these people for granted because they're your band of brothers, those are the ones you're walking through life with. Now maybe you don't have that in your family. Maybe there was a pain burden in one or both of your parents that precluded them from transferring on either siblings at all or healthy interactions with them or your siblings. And maybe you have a friend or two or a colleague or someone who stepped into that or is important to you, do they know you're grateful? Do they know what an impact they've had on your life, or what a place they hold in your mind? Do they know that their love is important to you? It's just so beautiful what we do for each other, how we stand next to each other. If you think about that and you wonder in this moment, who doesn't know how grateful I am for them? You'll be inclined to tell them. But do remember that life can change like this, and that what's important can then become everything, and that what you're worried about right now, especially if it has to do with someone's opinion of you, isn't going to much bother you when you're departing from life. You probably won't even think about it. So we can, if you have the faith of a mustard seed. The other thing I would say to you, a fun exercise to think about. Those people on the plane, they all had the grace to do the right thing for their family members. They had the grace to say, okay, if I'm leaving a last thing, this is what it has to be, and I have to do it fast. People ruminate about death, and you're wasting your time. It's like saying, how am I going to get across the lake? I'm going to drown. I can't do it. Well, there's a boat there. You're going to get on the boat and you're going to just start the engine. You're going to love crossing the lake. But you're not at the lake, so you can't see the boat. It's not there for you because you're still somewhere else. Death is a bit like that. You have the grace in the moment. Those people had the grace in the moment. Those children had the grace in the moment to negotiate, a tragedy / trauma. They had tools to use and they used them. And so you must too. Your spirituality will carry you in moments when you can't walk. Literally, it carries you through. You in the experience of it is you don't know how you're still going. In tragedy, you really don't know how you're functioning. You're kind of confused at your ability to put one foot in front of the other. Somebody hands you food and you take a couple of bites. You're like, wow, that's amazing. I'm actually eating. Um, that's when your faith is carrying you. Someone is carrying you. And I believe it's Christ. It's God. It's your ancestors who have gone before you, the communion of saints. Everything I was ever told about our Catholic faith, I believe in. I am absolutely certain that we have gone too far in our judgments of human beings. Like, for example, those people on the plane, were they all in a state of mortal sin, or were some of them in a state of grace? I mean, it seems like Christ was an equal. There was a lot of equality in who got the graces to negotiate the seriousness of the situation they were in. You see what I'm saying? We have this way as Christians, but particularly as Catholics, to think that our human judgment is remotely equal to God's judgment. If on our best day, I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, the Holy Father says to priests, forgive, just forgive, forgive. And if you don't understand what they're doing, forgive anyway. You don't have to understand. I think the Holy Father's words are very prophetic in where we're going as a faith, because we simply can't be renewed without debunking the idea that Christ judges us as humans judge us. Christ is not going to submit to the condemnation one human being offers another. It's not going to. It's not real. It's not even real. It's poof. It's a mirage. It's a pretense. I think priests are in the confessional with one job, really, to forgive on behalf of Christ, and um, to forgive people, because if somebody shows up for confession, I mean, we have to see a mustard seed there that shows some level of repentance. Well, I wasn't satisfied that he was penitent enough. Who are you? I mean, why should you? Are you the one who has to be satisfied? No. Some of those things are really, they deserve to be broken down. The vast majority of us have been blessed repeatedly over the years with the sacrament of confession, and we would urge other people to do it. And if you haven't been to confession in years, there's just a couple things that maybe would be important for you to know. If you want to say what you think is a sin, something you regret, you feel remorse for, and the priest in the confessional wants more information and you're not comfortable, just say, I don't have anything further on that. I'm not comfortable sharing anything further. It's just something I regret. And, just have your boundaries. You don't need to be humiliated or embarrassed by confession. You just don't. You don't. You can say less. Less is more. Certainly, most of the priests I know would be okay with that. But the faith the size of a mustard seed. Christ, my friends, was with everybody, is with everyone who wants him or needs him. And what he said was, those who are well have no need of a physician. How would you like to be well and have no need of a physician? Jesus Christ is the physician. I pray I'm always in need. I'm always aware of my need for the physician. I can promise you this, there's not a moment of my day or a breath that I take where I don't need Christ. I know that. I am pitifully aware of my condition of ongoing need for Jesus Christ. So those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick, I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. That's Mark 2:17. Jesus came not to call the righteous, but sinners. One thing we're sure of, we're all sinners. So if you think you could do with a little of God's presence in your day, you just have to ask. You simply have to say, Lord, please be with me today. I'm worried. Please be with me today. I'm pressured. Please be with me today. I'm scared. And Christ will be there. So wrapping it up, there are moments where life crystallizes very quickly. And in those moments, people know what's important. And let me just say, history records these moments for us. People write things down because they say, I learned this in such a way that, boom, it's hardwired. I'll never forget this lesson. And then they have the kindness to write it down so that we can learn it without having to suffer what they suffered. Read books. Read the stories of other people. I'm worried about our grasp of history dissipating. And why is it so important? Because we know who we are partially by knowing what the people who've gone before us learned. Certain things people tell me, I'm thinking in my head, you don't have to say another word. That's a great warning. Thank you. I'll take it. I'll never let it go because they learned it in such a way that they transmitted it to me powerfully. And I thank them for the lesson. All right, my friends, God bless you, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you for listening to the Interior Life podcast, which is a backpack production sponsored by Aging with Dignity and Icona Resorts.